There are a number of questions that you should be asking if you have a mesothelioma case, and not to be shy about asking them, because I can tell you that we're very happy to answer all your questions before you make a decision about the lawyer you want to choose. One of the very important questions is, how long has the firm been doing mesothelioma cases? What's their experience with it? How long have they been doing it? How many lawyers are they working on my case with me? Another very important question is, how many trials has this firm had? Are you going to take my case to trial? Or are you going to just try to settle me out for some lower amount? And those are essential questions to ask, because you've got to know that the lawyer that you choose is going to be there with you from the very beginning to the very end.
You know, Bob, you're absolutely right, but it's not only the clients that ask those questions. Because when we walk into a courtroom, it's our adversaries and it's the court that asks exactly those same questions. How long have you been doing this for? Who's behind you? How reliable is your firm? And one of the things that we're proud of in Levy Phillips and Konigsberg, with the generations of experience that we bring to the table, is that when we face an adversary, when we go into a court, we know that there's going to be an expectation on the other side that we're ready to take the case all the way. And those questions are always answered positively.
You know, Moshe, one of the things that we take pride in is to try cases against not only tough companies like the talc companies, but companies who take the position, we're not going to pay you anything. We'd rather fight than pay a penny. And I'll tell you something, a lot of law firms just don't bother trying cases against them because they're going to have to spend a lot of time and effort to get money from them. And one of the things I've taken great pride in was a case that we had representing an individual who worked with a gasket and a cable. And both companies said, our nationwide position is we won't pay in those cases, we'll try them. And rather than back down, we tried that case on behalf of that individual, and we got the first ever cable verdict against any cable manufacturer in the United States, and we also got a tremendous verdict against the gasket manufacturer. So we are very happy to take on a case, and matter of fact, let a defendant say, you know, we don't want to pay you. Make our day. We're happy to try those cases. Jerry, I know you had a similar situation.
Yes, I did, Bob. And those cases were against the welding rod industry. The welding rod industry is another very powerful industry. And we had two clients come to us, one with mesothelioma and the other with lung cancer. Both men were diagnosed with these diseases while they were in their 50s, with children. And both men shared a common exposure to welding rods that contained asbestos on the outer coating. We did some research on this, and we found that the welding rod industry litigated these cases very hard and had never lost a case of this type before. But what we did was we consulted the leading experts in the field on this issue. We found experts who had actually done tests on welding rods and determined that when welding rods are rubbed together, when they're abraded, when they're handled in the workplace, they do release asbestos fibers. And we put on our case in front of a jury, and we won the case in front of a jury and got our clients the compensation they deserve. They were the first families ever to be paid by the welding rod industry in asbestos cases. And I'm very proud of that, and I'm proud that our firm was willing to take on a tough case like that.
As a client of LPK, I was taken care of when I called and talked with them the next day. Attorney had flown from New York down to Nashville. Started off from there. They kept in close contact with me and told me what they were doing and when they were doing it and how they were doing it, with a list of people that manufactured products that I had used and been accustomed to. LPK personnel has all been wonderful. The ladies that work in the office, very polite when you talk with them. The attorneys at LPK, John Guyton and Moshe Myman, were very good and helpful when it come to the case and in court. We had people make us offers and settlements, and I'm glad I followed my lawyer's advice because they knew what they were talking about and what they were against. And as a layman, I knew nothing about what cases were valued at. And they did an excellent job in getting me the most that they could without having to go to trial, even after the jury was selected. And for anybody that stops and has to think about it, don't think. You think long, you think wrong. Call LPK, because if you put it off, it makes their job a whole lot harder. But you need the assistance going through things.
The people we represent seem to be like the people I could relate the best to and the people I could fight the hardest for.
John felt like if he went on his own and started his own law firm, he could do even more good for people.
The firm, since it was formed in 1999, has helped over 2,000 victims of mesothelioma. We have achieved the single largest verdict in the country for a single victim of mesothelioma. We have helped our clients recover over $3 billion.
We just wanted to be known as, you know, when we say we're coming, we're coming.
He cares about the families that are stricken with mesothelioma. He's a very down-to-earth individual that's very focused on getting results for people.
It's a very specific type of cancer that typically develops in the lining around the lung, and the only known cause of it in the United States is asbestos.
The firm's clients are made up of mostly your common, everyday, hard-working person.
The vast majority of people who suffer from mesothelioma have never filed a lawsuit before.
Historically, the disease always manifested itself in a lot of the trades. Boiler makers, shipyard workers, drywallers, mechanics.
They get struck down by this horrible disease in their golden years, in the prime of their life, when they ought to be enjoying themselves, and instead they're fighting, a terminal disease.
The youngest client I've ever represented was 28 years old. The oldest was probably 92.
We have a lot of victims now, unfortunately, that are the spouses of tradesmen. This is what we call a take-home case.
We don't want to just represent them. We really do want to make their lives as positive and peaceful as possible.
We have teamed up with many different medical institutions across the country to help them with their funding for clinical trials and research. What the firm's done, not only for their clients, but for the mesothelioma community as a whole, there is no doubt what sets the firm apart is not just the great legal work that they do, but the charitable work that they do.
The School of Medicine at Southern Illinois University was looking to build a cancer research institute, and the law firm made a pledge to the university to fund it over a several-year period, and it's called the Simmons Cooper Cancer Institute.
Our attorneys are probably a different sort than a lot of law firms. We look for attorneys who have almost a blue-collar work ethic. I call it boots on the ground.
The lawyers that work on the case provide the individual attention that each client wants and deserves.
We have excellent lawyers. You have some of the best lawyers in the country, and they know the science, they know the medical, they know historical information, they know about the experts and their background. There isn't a stone that doesn't get turned over to find out all we can on how to present these cases in the best fashion to get recovery for the families.
We all have our clients' interests at heart. No one here, in my opinion, doesn't understand the fact that we're here to do one thing, and that's to help our clients.
Hi, I'm Andy Crouppen with the law firm of Brown & Crouppen. Did you know that asbestos is still legal in America? Manufacturers have known since the 1930s that asbestos was deadly and caused mesothelioma. Most people think that asbestos was outlawed in the U.S., but that's not true. Asbestos is still allowed and widely used in lots of products. Maybe that's why nearly 10,000 Americans die each year from asbestos-related diseases. That's nearly 30 people every day who lose their lives to asbestos. Thousands of American workers have been exposed to asbestos. Sometimes workers are never told about the exposure. They don't find out they were exposed to asbestos until they get sick. Other workers knew they were working with asbestos, but weren't aware that their inadequate safety equipment failed until decades later when they were diagnosed with an asbestos-related illness. Exposure to asbestos is the only known cause of mesothelioma, a deadly lung disease. In fact, asbestos is so toxic, it even puts the families of exposed workers at risk. Asbestos can come home on the clothing of workers and cause secondhand exposure to their loved ones, which can ultimately lead to all of the same illnesses. And it isn't just the workplace. Asbestos has been found in thousands of consumer products as well. One recent study found asbestos fibers in duct tape, spackle, sealant, even toys. Manufacturers have known for 80 years that asbestos is deadly. Instead of trying to fix the problem, they spent decades suppressing reports that expose the dangers. They've fought every attempt to ban or limit asbestos use. Even today, they're trying to look for ways to duck responsibilities for asbestos injuries. You shouldn't have to pay for corporate negligence. Our legal team helps asbestos victims and their families get the compensation they deserve. We may be able to help you even if your employer or the manufacturer has gone out of business. If you've been hurt by asbestos, call us. The call is free, and as always, if you don't get paid, we don't get paid. Let our experienced team of asbestos attorneys go to work on your case. Call us at the number below for a free asbestos consultation.